I'm Presh, and this is my co-host Avisha from the Big
Hello.
Picture Film Club. Ruben Pla. I hope I'm pronouncing your surname correctly.
You're correct.
I watched the screener of the Horror Crowd yesterday, and man, I love it.
Ah,
I really like it. It's
makes my day.
well, I mean, obviously, you can tell a bit more, but it's very the kind of the guests and like the you know contemporaries that you've kind of got on,
Mhm.
and creators of my favorite kind of horror franchises. And what was interesting and I think very noteworthy after looking at your documentary and then thinking about it is horror people are weird, and I mean this in the best way possible,
Hey,
right?
wait a minute. No, I'm kidding. They are. They
It's
are
like
weird. Of
it,
course, some are weird.
one thing is like anyone from any walk of life can be a horror fan and get
Sure,
into horror.
sure.
And that's what I found out from your documentary. Like, doesn't matter your background, where you're
You
from.
nailed
It's
it.
like, but everyone who does get into horror is almost like, particularly in the film industry, the oddball among their peers, their family. They are the one that stood out or just think differently or are wired differently among their friends, family. And so you have this really interesting community that you've kind of highlighted is where they are very diverse in where they come from, but they are very, I wouldn't say homogenous, but they have this shared thing of being the odd one out from where they are.
Mhm.
How would you describe the horror crowd?
Exactly like that. No, just kidding. No, that was my intent all along to shine a light on these people that most audience members think, oh, they're a bunch of weirdos. They're like under the stairs somewhere and stuff. And a lot of a lot of them are parents. They take their kids to dance and ballet and whatever, and then they like other kind of things too. There's some of the music, art. So it's not all a bunch of weirdos. There's a couple of weirdos, but they're not all a bunch of weirdos. And they I wanted them to show what they like when their first influence as a child made them get into horror filmmaking, whether it's an actor, writer, director, producer, whatever the case may be. We have some journalists in there too, and they wanted to share their lives with you guys, their passions, their loves, everything. They wanted to reveal things, and they felt comfortable with me because I knew them all. I'd worked either with almost all of them or and knew them all, so they were very comfortable. You can see watching. I'm on the sofa with my arm around them, high fiving each other,
Mm.
whatever the case may be. So yeah, I think it came through, and obviously it did because you said that.
Yeah. And for people who don't know, like, how did you kind of get your start in the horror world?
Well, I started as an actor, in New York City right after college. I started acting, off Broadway and TV shows and stuff. Then I moved to LA after a few years and started getting to film and more, a lot more TV. And then I started traveling in the horror circles with these filmmakers. I got into films, like Insidious with James Wan and other films like that. And I started thinking to myself, you know what? I think I'm going to like interview these people and see what I get.
Mhm.
And I thought I'd do something, simple like my phone, no big deal, just kind of talk to them, see what kind of footage I got. So I met with my buddy Hank Braxton, who ended up being my co-producer. And he says, "I love the idea. Why don't I bring in some cameras?" I go, "Okay, good." He goes, "And sound equipment and lighting kit." I go, "Yeah." And we'll shoot some scenes in my studios where I work. I go, "Let's do it." And we brought in his wife Ariel Brockfeld, who's also my buddy. She became my producing partner, and then it just exploded. I mean, people just started lining up. They wanted to do it. People like Lynn Shay and Oren Pelly from Insidious, Oren Pelly, who created Paranormal Activity, Jeffrey Reddick, who created Final Destination, Russell Mulcahy, who directed Highlander and many other films. They just wanted to do it. They wanted to talk and spill it, and they felt comfortable. So it was just a wonderful experience for me and for them.
And what are your thoughts on like the current landscape of horror at the moment?
Well, it's shifted so much in the last 10 years. I mean, it's taken on social issues. Obviously, films like Get Out and many others that are delving into things that weren't really talked about in film before. Uh, Thing is, for me, it doesn't really matter what the issue is about the film. In the film, to me, it's about a good script. If the script is tight, a strong 3 act structure, that's what I like, and it keeps you captivated. It could be about any part of it. It doesn't even have to be horror. It could be about sci-fi. It could be fantasy. I like, action, adventure, comedies, romantic comedies.
Yeah.
I don't care. As long as the film is tight and the script is great, I love it.
Are there certain elements that you look for in a script that tell you if it's going to be a good horror or not? Like, what does a good horror film contain?
Yeah, there's many permutations to good horror. You got the slow burn horrors and the haunted house, spooky kind of gothicy, kind of like the James Wan Insidious kind of thing. And then you got the chop off the heads and bloody stuff everywhere, like The Hills Have Eyes. So it can go across the board. It's a very large arc for that kind of thing. Again, if the script is good and the acting is good and the directing is good, production value, any kind of horror will work.
Okay, that's good to know.
Unfortunately, we are very short on time today.
Don't worry
so
about it.
I'm gonna ask one final question. I guess
Sure, go ahead.
For the horror crowd, what do you hope is the main takeaway for both horror fans and non-horror fans?
Excellent question. Well, for non-horror fans, that not all horror aficionados and filmmakers and actors and so forth are a bunch of nuts, which really is out there. And I've met people go, horror? No. Yeah, I'm too scared of that. Those people are nuts and weird. So I wanted to see, hey, look, so that's why I shine that light on that. For horror filmmakers, just to get inside a more detailed, look at filmmakers who are successful. A lot of them are very successful. Some are just starting out. So I wanted to include both levels of that, beginners and pros, to show, yeah, you can do it. Just be passionate, stay with it, create your own horror crowd wherever you are. You're in a small town in Scotland and you don't know anybody and there's no horror trivia going on, nothing. Start your own crowd, whatever it is, and then help each other network and support each other. Work on his film, he'll work on yours, she'll do the lights on this one, and so forth.
Awesome. Well, Ruben, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.